Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Life After Debt podcast. My name is Amber Duncan, and I am excited today to have our guest, Jacent Wamala. Jacent runs Wamala Wellness out in Nevada, and what she specializes in is really helping people with relationships. So I'm so excited to have you here with us today, Jacent.
Thank you. It's going to be a great chat. I'm excited too.
Yes. And, obviously here at Life After Debt, I am very laser focused in on the finances of individuals, especially around relationships, because I believe that can be a tough road to navigate. So tell me a little bit about what you specialize in with the counseling and coaching for the relationships and how often this finance piece tends to pop up.
Yeah. So I think a recent study showed that 90% of Americans mentioned money as a major stressor. And I just think the other 10% maybe aren't being 100% honest about it, or it's on their minds. And thankfully, it's not something that they are worried about, but it still influences heavily like how we navigate. I went to school to be a marriage and family therapist, and that's when my life fell apart, actually. So it's kind of
Wow.
ironic that, things were falling apart for me while I was learning how to serve other people. And I think that God doesn't play around about the experiences that we receive. So I think it was on purpose for me to be equipped to serve in the way that I do. That I went to school to help people in their relationships, but we didn't talk about how to help people when it came to money in their relationships. I grew up, in a regular household, a first gen household for me, but a lot of us aren't learning about money in our households growing up or in school growing up. And so there's this huge kind of like elephant in the room when it comes to money
So true.
and I found myself asking questions while I was in that really dark place of dealing with a lot of grief after getting divorced and losing my father just a few months later, and accumulating a whole bunch of student loan debt at the same time, of like, is this what it's supposed to be? Like, is this normal? And it is normal because there are a lot of people who are in debt, but it's not what it has to be when you figure out what's possible and you have a plan in place, and especially if you get support, right? So just like I know that y'all have helped people, I think, negotiate like what, hundreds of millions of dollars
Yes. Yes.
that they don't have to be burdened with anymore, that it really was an intersection of dealing with my own personal finances, going down the toilet and figuring out how to get myself out of six figures of debt, and seeing that everyone that I was talking to in the therapy room was mentioning money too. And I'm like, we need a better way. There
Right.
has to be a better way to help people. We can't all just be stuck forever. That didn't make sense because I saw that there were people on the other side. I saw that there was life after debt for folks. And so
Yeah.
how is it that we could get there and help other people do it too? So it really, the intersection between mental health and money came from myself, what I was experiencing in the therapy room with my clients, and really having a passion to help people get past this thing that wrecks their relationships and makes them feel like there's no hope for the future when that's just not the case.
Yeah, and I think that is so well said. You said a couple things I want to touch on, and the first being that you walk through your own journey of divorce and walking through a hard season, and here you are just coming out of school, you're this relationship counselor, and you experience the extreme opposite, right, of what you would expect, and I think that's a lot of why you've been so successful at what you do. I always think that some of our greatest trials, if we use them the right way, can impact so many others in a positive manner. And I know that just had to bolster you in your position to know, man, I'm excited to be doing this because I myself could have used something like I'm offering to others when I was walking through a dark season. But also, you said something about education, right?
Mm,
Educating people what to expect. And I'm always a big proponent of like, talk about things. You said it. We don't talk about the things that matter the most. We weren't taught in school how to handle money or what to do or how to get married and learn to coexist and commingle finances. And like nobody talks about it. And then we act shocked, right? When it all crumbles and we can't seem to make it work. But I think that if we got on the front side, which it sounds like that's what you're so great at doing with your people, is you create this space to open up the conversations so that you can educate them, you can get in their world, you can set up structures that support their success rather than be on the backside of it trying to piece it all back together.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. All it takes is a few little tweaks, and what can happen is really amazing, especially when we talk about relationships, marriages, and those who are parents. I work primarily with women, but that doesn't hold us back from being able to affect their marriage and their household, because I believe in systems, and when you change one thing, it ripples out and it affects everything else. And so I have client after client who will say, because of our work together, their communication in their marriage is better. They're on the same page with their partner. They didn't know that their partner even had certain goals or dreams now that they're aware of because of the things that they're talking about, and that they're being able to progress. So it's really cool to see the ripple effect
Yes.
in the households that we get to support, even if we're just primarily working with one person.
Well, communication is key. You said it numerous times just now. Communication is the key to everything. And there's such a fear associated with opening up and being vulnerable and sharing, even if it's with your spouses. It's very vulnerable. But if you can show them what's possible in one area of their life, they're more likely to open up that vulnerability in multiple areas. And that's where the magic happens, in my opinion. And so it's getting people accustomed to stepping outside of all they know, which is shame, guilt, fear, right? And walking into this space of, okay, I'm going to be vulnerable, I'm going to share, I'm going to talk about my debt, or I'm going to let them know that before we got married I had $1,000 in credit card debt. Because I talk to a lot of people, surprisingly, who they're really scared to have that conversation. It's a very tough road to navigate, and in a lot of cases they're calling me from the space of, here's where I am, but I don't want my spouse to know. And to
Yeah.
me, the work, while you do have debt, and we can get to that, but the work actually comes. Let's talk more about that fear that's associated with you actually sharing it with your spouse. I'd love to help you navigate that before I'd like to settle your debt.
Yeah, because what's the quality of your life and your relationship if you can't be honest? That
Right.
literally means that you have to be a different person,
Hmm.
and kind of like shield this whole area of your life from the person that you're supposed to be able to be closest to. And I get it. It's hard. It's not easy to have these conversations, but finding a way to do so can really just take a relationship to the next level. And just like you, I've talked to so many people who are like, yeah, my partner has no idea. My husband has no idea how much debt I'm in. I don't know how much debt he's in. And I'm like, okay, so let's figure out a way to.
Yeah.
Maybe not today you're gonna tell them everything unless you feel like you wanna come clean in that way. Like, let's walk you into that conversation feeling a little bit more confident and clear on how to approach it, and what to do to have that level of honesty and vulnerability.
That's so good. I got some stats because I thought you probably know these, but our audience would find this interesting. And finances are one of the leading causes of divorce, which I'm sure that you already know that. Studies have shown that literally money issues contribute to 30 to 50% of divorces, which is like mind blowing.
Yeah, it's crazy because I mean, I guess it makes sense because people aren't talking about it. How much are
Hmm.
people having conversations about money before they get engaged or, before they get married? Now they're married. And so I think it trickles down and it
Yeah,
makes sense to some level, but it's something that's on all of our minds. So why are we not speaking up about it? But I think it's really, like you mentioned, the lack of education, but it's also the lack of the skill of how to have the conversation,
that's right.
how to come to the conversation, and literally how to have the conversation. So we're practicing sometimes, or I'm helping facilitate people having a conversation and being able to, be the translator or the go between to say, like, this is where this person, okay, do you see what's going on here? And so I think that it's a skill. Like, managing your money is a skill,
Yes.
paying off debt is a skill, building wealth is a skill, being able to communicate about money is a skill, and we just aren't given that because we don't have the practice. And so sometimes it's like they need to practice with you. This is when someone books a clarity call and they're talking about their situation. This may be the first time that they're saying these numbers out loud. This is the
Out
first time
loud.
that they're even becoming aware of how much they have, because so many people don't even know how much debt that
That's
they're
right.
dealing with, right? They put their heads in the sand because it's so overwhelming and so stressful and daunting that they just ignore it
It's
altogether.
the ostrich syndrome. It's the ostrich syndrome because it's easier to bear, but you're right. When you share it, it loses its power. So that's why our clarity calls are so effective. And for you, I would love to hear, What are some of the tools when you see a woman come in and sit down with you and she's struggling to have these hard conversations to get on the same page with her husband around finances? Like, what kinds of things do you put in place for her to help her navigate that so that she can start that dialogue?
Yeah, for one, I think just creating the space where someone can say anything and I'm unmoved. Like, no one has ever told me anything that I was shocked by. So, for them to say something and me not to like, like
Right.
make this crazy reaction that would confirm honestly the judgment that they have against themselves gives them a little bit more empathy and compassion for themselves in the process because they're feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm the worst person in the world. Like, I'm a failure. They're already thinking all of these things. So I think that helps take down the level of stress around it. But then I think it's easier to have a conversation with your husband when you're coming to the conversation with solutions and with a plan in place.
Yes.
So I think that because, there is no plan, there is no solution, it's just a fire. I'm just bringing you a fire,
Right.
which you
Yeah.
should still be able to bring to your husband. If that's not the case, having already talked through what you're going to do,
Yes.
already put into place some things that are helping to put the fire out, makes you feel like, okay, there's a fire. However, we have this situation under control. This is what we're
Yes.
doing, to be able to reduce the debt and get rid of it. This is how much progress I've already made, or, this is the support I have. Usually makes it easier.
No, that's a great suggestion. Knowing and presenting options, if you're not comfortable sharing it right away, just shows, hey, I'm dealing with this, but I'm more concerned with our relationship when I want to be 100% open and honest with you about where I am and what I have and what I brought into this marriage as far as debt was concerned. Or there's some people that are even married right now to where the husband works, the wife is responsible for paying the bills, and she is spending money at TJ Maxx and Marshalls like nobody's business. And yet her husband has no idea. Right.
Yeah,
So there's some people that just this starts up when they're married. And I think that, even having almost like dates to where they're sitting down and not only going over where they are right now, but setting financial goals together, it just keeps them that much more bonded in the finance conversation. Do you agree?
so much. And I get goosebumps when you talk about it because I'm always thinking like, well, what's the tangible thing? You're listening to this podcast right now, right? The tangible thing to take away from this is to start the conversation with your vision. It's like a dream party. So what is it that you want to have happen in your lives? And it may have nothing to do with money. It might be about quality of life. You want to be able to retire and be on rocking chairs, in front of your house or whatever, or you want to be able to retire and travel the world, or you want to work because you love how you serve and you can do it till you die, but you don't
Right.
want to have to think about money. But I think when you start a conversation with your partner about your vision, and you're vulnerable about where you want to go and how you want to serve and how you want to use money to have an impact in the world, and then you listen to them and you hear what their side sounds like, then it's easier to reverse engineer the plan of action because you've diffused some of the stress around money by starting with the vision
That's
first.
good.
And
Yeah.
so, if you take anything else away from this, if you're going to have a conversation about money with, your spouse, then I would say don't start with logging into the accounts. Like, don't start with the amount of debt that you're in.
Yeah.
Start with the vision that you have for your lives and how much you'll be able to give and how many people you'll be able to impact, how you'll be
Mhm.
able to serve, the way that you'll be able to tithe, whatever it is, and then walk yourselves back into, maybe the harder parts, which is the actual tangible, numbers and logistics and things like that. And have set money dates. That's literally what we call them, money dates.
Okay, perfect. Well, good. I'm on the same page.
Yeah.
It's similar to when you're starting a business. So I always tell people when they've launched a business, go 5 years out. Tell me where you want to be in 5 years. And then let's back out of that. Even on clarity calls, where do you want to see your finances in the next 5 years? Where do you want to be? And then once they can comfortably say that, because some people can't even see that far out because they're so in it. So they have no dreams, no goals as far as, okay, how can I actually get out of this rat race cycle that I'm in? And the other piece of the puzzle is that everybody's financial goals or what they deem as I'm okay looks completely different. Like what I might say, this is where I want to be in 5 years. it could look completely different to someone else. And so you have to make sure as a couple you're on the same page with where you're heading, right? And how quickly you want to get there because you just said it. And I do believe this because I've met couples to where sometimes the goal isn't a ton of money in the bank, it's more about lifestyle. It's more about setting into rockers and being able to travel. And I don't want to work anymore once I get to X, you know? So it's really understanding your partner and knowing what is it that where do they want to be in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 5 years? Let's put this to paper and then back out of it.
So good. Yeah, I'm over here laughing because I married Bougie. Like, you talk about, I could just live in a nice little simple house, and my husband's like, I want to have. I'm like, okay, so I'm changing my plan because now I have to get a little bougier, and I don't know that I need you to back out. I don't think I need you to be less bougie. I just need to get
Right.
bougier, I guess, you know? And so, yeah, definitely having the clarity around like what each person deems
Yeah.
as the goal is key so that you can find a way to get on the same page about it. And then it becomes fun, you know? Hopefully there's a way that yes, there are parts that are stressful and hard, but then it's like, wow, we're working towards something. Everyone loves to have a goal or a mission or a quest that they're on. And if we can flip the journey to see it that way, that we're on this quest and every hiccup is kind of like when you're watching a hero's journey and the hero always has to come up against some challenge, but those are the parts of the story that we love. Those are the parts of the story that we remember,
That's
and our
right.
lives are no different. Our lives are stories that are being told and woven, you know what I mean, to glorify our maker. So I think that that's important to flip our switch as much as possible. And maybe this, you know, the psychology in me that
Yeah.
talks a lot about mindset and just flipping everything that we think on its head to see if looking at it differently changes anything. And it's just doing experiments. Just do an
Mhm.
experiment. Try having a money date. Try talking about your vision. Stumble through the conversation and maybe you need to go do some research. Like, I don't know. What is my vision? Cool. Take some time to think about it and say, at our next money date, let's revisit that and dig a little bit deeper. I think everyone also is thinking in very black and white, all or nothing terms. And if we can entertain gray a little bit more, entertain the middle, that would makes things a little bit easier. There's so many different routes, so many different options. Reach out to, you know what I mean, the Life After Debt team and have
Yeah.
a conversation about what's possible so
Yes.
that you're able to see what options that you have. Sometimes people just don't even take the step to ask the question or have a conversation.
Or they just don't know who they can trust, right? They
Exactly.
just are like, well, there's so many voices, there's so many talking heads out there. Who can I really trust around my finances? Because it's a big deal.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh my gosh, yeah, but it's so much easier when you start having that conversation, like you said, and you start talking about it and gauge based on, like, how do people have a spirit of a teacher, or is someone just trying to tell me what to do without giving me any insight on as to why or how this thing works, and you ha in the interactions that we've had care so much. And someone would easily be able to tell that anyone that you're associated with cares just as much as you. So if they're on a clarity call and it's not even with you, that you should feel how someone is approaching this conversation with you. You've also had conversations where people didn't care. You know how that feels. And let
Yes.
that kind of be the guide of like, maybe this isn't it, you know? But if you can feel that someone cares and they're working to figure out, you know, how to help you understand your next steps,
Yes.
that you take that chance on allowing yourself to be supported. You deserve that. And some of us have learned growing up that we had to do things on our own, that we were only going to be successful or that we only made progress and then there was no one else coming,
Right.
and just because that got you to this point does not mean it's gonna get you to the next. It
I
honestly
could
is
not agree
actually
more.
the opposite. Yeah, what got you here will get you there. So it's
Yes.
time to do something different.
Well, and I think just joining arms with somebody who can do something better, right? It's a very humbling experience, especially around finances, especially around marriage. Getting someone like yourself in front of them to say, hey, I'm here and I can help you, right? Asking for help does not come easy for anyone. And so, if we can step out of our comfort zone to know, hey, it's time to ask for help around a relationship or it's time to ask for help around our finances, then the rest is just it's all up from there. It's the asking for help that people struggle with. And for a lot of people too, and we talked a little bit about this. You said you married Bougie and you're everybody's
Simple.
quote unquote rich life looks different too, right? What's important to me or what I deem as like bougie or rich life, I tell people all the time, one of the things I could care less about, it never matters how much money I ever make, I really don't care about flying first class. I think it's so overrated. I'm going to get to the same place. I don't care about the food up front. I don't care about the bigger seat. Honestly, I like having to keep myself in shape to where I have to fit in the seat in the back. So quite frankly, I don't care. I'm not paying triple for it. It's not important to me. But for somebody else, to them, that could be their thing. So really understanding your partner too and knowing what does their rich life look like? What in their mind do they deem as like, man, these are the things in life that I enjoy? Now, I do love staying at nice places. I love going to nice hotels. I love traveling, but I don't care about a huge house or like I could live anywhere like yourself. So there are specific things that the more that we know about our partners and how they want to live their life, it's going to help us navigate this financial conversation within relationships, I think.
100%. And the ability to evolve and have that fulfillment and satisfaction in your relationship is directly connected to what you essentially were alluding to, which is a journey of self-development and self-awareness. You have to know yourself before you can communicate to someone else who you are or what you need and what you value. And I think a lot of people are struggling with figuring out who they are or aren't absolutely clear on who they are, what they want. And maybe sometimes we're, what's the word? I don't know if I want to say ashamed, but like trying to be humble about it, right? So it's like, actually, I kind of would like floor warmers. I was standing by, I live in Vegas, so it's really hot. So I was standing by a window, like closing it, and the floor was warm because it's hot outside. I said, this must be what it's like to have heated floors. I was like, maybe I'm bougier than I think. You know what I mean? And being okay with valuing whatever it is that you value and
Yeah.
letting that be that, you know? But yeah,
I
it's
am glad you said that. No, it is a big deal because I think sometimes people feel this guilt and shame because of the things that they like or the things that they enjoy, or maybe they shouldn't be spending it there because it's considered too much. Which I never would wanna make someone feel like that if that's their thing, and I, in return, don't like to feel like that. Like, if I like handbags, because that's my thing, then I it just is what it is. Like, I'm gonna indulge on nice handbags. For someone else, if they're a car person or whatever they are, let people be that. Let that be their thing, and for you, if the floors are it, go for it, I say, because it does make a big difference.
yeah, when it's cold outside, you know
It
what I mean?
does.
You were talking about stats, right? And a stat that's not necessarily based on just money, but in general. There was research done about goal setting and how to hit your goals. When you have an idea, that's 10%. That makes you 10% likely to hit your goal.
Mm.
When you consciously decide that you'll do it is 25% likely to hit the goal. Deciding when, so having a timeline, right, will bring you up to 40%. Planning
Wow.
on how you're going to do it brings you up to 40%. Or no, 50%. The plan is 50%. Committing to someone that you will do it makes you 65% higher rate of success. And having a specific accountability appointment with someone you've committed to makes you over 95% more likely to hit your goal. So when you're booking a clarity call,
Mhm,
when you get passed off to the rest of the team,
mhm,
when you have appointments booked on your calendar, when you book a strategy session with me
mhm.
and you get support in place. This is why people get personal trainers. Could you go to the gym? Yeah. Could you work out at home? Yeah. Are you more likely to work out if you have someone waiting on you?
That's right.
Yes. So,
And see
you know,
results because you're doing the right things.
so get accountability and support. It's okay to have it. It's okay to need it, let me say.
Yeah,
Because you shouldn't have shame around needing support either. Like, I need help. I have coaches, I have mentors. I need help. And I'm okay with saying that now.
yeah,
And anyone who's listening who feels that way, don't hesitate if you feel pulled to book your clarity call, to reach out to me and
yeah.
book a session.
Well, even for the people who are going through our program here at Life After Debt, to even reach out for the additional support, because I think it goes hand in hand with what you're doing, Jacent, because while people are trying to solve a problem, they also don't want to find themselves here again, or they also want to strengthen their relationship as much as they do their finances. And so doing both at the same time to me is like 100% success, right? Because not only are you fixing the old, you're creating a new way of being as a couple. so that you don't end up here. So that's some startling statistics though. And the biggest one for me is reaching out and having an accountability partner. It's like anything else in life. As soon as you bring someone else into your world and you share what you're committed to, really, I mean, that's the name of the game. And I don't know why we get so hesitant other than shame, because money is such a big topic. We can go sit at a lunch table with a bunch of people and they ask how we are, and we're like, fine, great, everything's good. And we're so lying. Like we've got all this stuff spinning, but no one is going to talk about it. But if you can open up a dialogue, and you know what, that was probably the hardest part for me and how we got started helping people with credit card debt is we shared our own story. And when you share your own story, guess what it does? It gives people permission to share theirs. Just like you've shared your story that you walked through divorce at a young age, that you understand what it's like to deal with a bunch of debt and student loans. Immediately, it makes me feel like, oh my gosh, I could tell her anything. She's been there, done that. Right. And so that's the place that not everybody can speak from. And you've been gifted enough. I know you didn't see it as a gift back then, but now to be able to use it to help other people, I, having walked through bankruptcy and seeing how awful it made me feel, can now help everyone else avoid it because I know how it feels. And as soon as I talk about it, people immediately are like, okay, because I was feeling like this and I don't want to do this either. So I don't know. It's always mind blowing to me when I meet people like you just said, who you're in a field of work that's helping others avoid what you had to walk through. And I don't think that's by chance.
Definitely not. You know? And I don't know if it's just me being delulu or what, but it's what helps to make sense of the experience. So that way the things that we go through aren't senseless. There's a purpose for them. There's a reason. And so if something's happening to me, what I didn't mention as we wrap is life after debt, right? I hit those goals. I paid off the debt. I saved like
Good
30K
job.
after, I paid off all of my debt. I started, my businesses and made nearly six figures in my first year. I got pregnant. So I was like,
Amazing.
I'm slowing down. Okay. And then my husband had a stroke last year. And life after debt is still life. Things are
Mm,
still going to happen. But we are in such a better position because of the choices we made before he had a stroke that him having a stroke, while obviously has shaken our family to the core, is so much different, is so much better,
wow.
so much better off because of the choices we made
Yeah.
long before he ever had the stroke. And so I think really thinking further out, I feel like wealthy women aren't thinking for today, they're thinking for tomorrow. And
Mhm.
they're doing today what they can to put them in a better situation and position for tomorrow, for good or for bad or circumstance. So sometimes it's like there's circumstances that you have influence and control over, and there's circumstances you don't have any influence and control over.
Right.
And I'm so grateful that we did what we did before we got married and while we were early in our marriage. Because I also told my husband, I said, hey, you should pay off your debt before we get married. And he could. So he did. But not everyone's in that
Amazing.
same situation. But figuring out whatever resources can help you to make choices that are going to make your life so much easier when the stuff
Because
hits the
life happens still. You're
yes.
constantly going to be thrown curveballs. You could be completely out of debt, but literally you have to be prepared and setting yourself up, even if it's, I tell people, even if you start somewhere with a small savings account and you're only putting $10 in it, it's less about the amount and more about the habit you create. That's it. And so starting that at a young age for a lot of people just sets them on the path to be prepared for the unexpected things that they're going to encounter because they're coming. Trust me, they're coming.
100%.
We are
Yeah.
living proof of that.
Yeah. I call it building your money muscle. So I love that
Yeah.
you mentioned that. A lot of this is
Yes,
behavioral. So I
it's
appreciate you
good.
so much. Oh,
Well, this has been amazing. And for those listening, how can they get in contact with you should they desire to work with you, either while they're going through their program or even on the side, relationally, around finance? What's the best way to get in touch?
yeah. So the best way to get in touch, if you're like, no, I'm serious, I need to talk to Jacent, you can text me. It's 702-265-5478. If you want to check out the website, see all of the families we've been able to support up until this point and more details, then the website I think will be in the description and it's wamalawellness.com. Either way, make sure that you say hi, tell me that you heard this podcast in particular so I know where you're coming from and I look forward to connecting.
Thank you so much. And we'll have that link on our notes below today's show. But I really appreciate you being here today. Super excited to partner with you on some things. So we'll talk soon. And that's a wrap for this episode of Life After Debt. We're so glad you hung out with us because around here, we believe debt doesn't get the final say. Clarity does. Whether you're drowning in credit card debt or just tired of stressing over money, we're here to help you ditch the shame, get a plan, and take your power back. If you're ready for real change, let's talk. Head over to reducemydebts.com and book your free clarity call with our team. It's quick, easy, and honestly, it could change everything. Thanks again for listening. And remember, your life after debt isn't just possible, it's waiting for you.